What's up guys, it's Chris. Today I wanted to make another conversation type of video, and I really wanted to talk about a perk which I think has been a huge problem in DBD for a while, and that is Circle of Healing. Circle of Healing on its release changed the way Dead by Daylight is played, and not in a good way. Med kits and other things were already super powerful to begin with, and with boons they only got stronger. Forgive me by the way, I have a habit of just saying boons as Circle of Healing because that's the only one I ever see, honestly, so I just say boons. But before we get into the main problems I have with it, I just want you guys to compare boons to hexes. So hexes are supposed to be a high risk, high reward type of perk for killers. And now let's look at Ruin, which is still a hex, by the way. Much weaker than any other slowdown perk in the entire game for killer. A survivor can spawn on top of your Ruin, and most killers can't even make it to the totem before the totem is cleansed at that point. So that's one perk slot that is completely gone. We could talk about something like crowd control, which can be really strong in some maps, maybe like Larry's or something like that, but not really super game changing, honestly, the majority of games, because a lot of the newer maps especially have a disgusting amount of pallets that windows are never really a big issue. Again, you have to remember any of the hexes, there's 4 chances for a survivor to spawn on top of that hex, which means the majority of your games, your hexes are going to be gone immediately. If you're not bringing Undying, and even if you are bringing Undying, the value you'll get out of your hexes is very small. So I would say it's a high risk, low reward for most of the hexes in the game right now, which I don't think is very cool, but that's where it's at. Boons, on the other hand, have unlimited charges. Survivors can choose exactly where they want them to be. They can place them as many times as they want, and all for one perk on one person. This isn't even if 2 or 3 people are bringing them. One person can place this boon anywhere on the map that they want an unlimited amount of times and get an unlimited amount of heals from it. That is what we called a 0 risk, very high reward. On top of that, with the ability to be able to choose where you place the boons, unlike a killer who, you know, like I said, has their hex spawn completely randomly many times on top of a survivor spawn. The amount of problematic totem spawns in Dead by Daylight is pretty unreal. I can go on forever about the maps where there's totems that are always just a lose-lose situation for the killer. And even in spots like that aren't Eyrie of Crows, Ironworks, the meat plant, stuff like that, where they just get unlimited value and kicking it is just such a waste of time, you cannot do it, because by the time you do, and by the time you get to a gen, another boon's back up, right? What's the point? But outside of that, killers in general, a lot of the times just have a straight up lose-lose situation with boons. Say you want to play Trapper or Hag, and you're playing around a 3-gen, 4-gen setup for a lot of the game, because that's what they do really well. So what you want to do is be able to hit somebody. They have to be really careful about what they're doing, or find a teammate to heal them, which would bring 2 people out of the picture. Instead, what they can do is they take a hit, they run to the boon, they come back, take a hit, run to the boon, come back, take a hit, run to the boon. Now, save the best for last is super nice, and you can get some value out of these extra health states. Okay, we can talk about that another time. The problem is these games end up going on for 30 minutes sometimes, and it is just so boring, and it like breaks the game that I cannot understand how the boons are ever the way that they are. Now, I kind of want to get into what I think they should do with the boons. I think at least a charge system is in order. So the way medkits work is 16 charges would be a full heal. 8 is like half of a health bar. So I'm thinking maybe they could set it so there's 64 charges in a boon, which doesn't mean they can heal 64 times. It means they can heal 4 times. And this will be tracked on the individual survivor who brought the boon that was used on their perk slot. If another survivor brings a boon in as well, okay, that was 2 perks. That's another 64 charges for them as well. I also believe the killers should not have to bring a perk slot like Shattered Hope to be able to deal with boons on a map that they wouldn't know they would go to. Like say the survivors want to bring the killer to Eyrie of Crows. The killer has no way of knowing that. If they did, many times I would probably bring Shattered Hope if I knew I was going to the map, because I understand the survivors are probably trying to pre-drop a lot of pallets, maybe use balanced landing and boon that main building. But what I think would be great for base kit for killers is to be able to choose an option. So say it's spacebar to kick it, or control to block that totem. And the killer can only block 1 totem spot in the map at a time. It's a little bit complicated, I'll admit, but I think it would be a really great problem solver for how strong the boons are. Another way I think they could go around it is limiting the placements instead. If they didn't want to go the charge system, which I personally think is the best way to go about it, they could limit the amount of times the survivor can place the boons. So say the survivor has to have a little bit more risk involved because it's not unlimited. It won't last forever. So instead, the survivor gets to place the boon twice, and if the killer kicks it twice, that perk's gone forever, which actually incentivizes killers to be able to, even in a bad situation, go take care of that boon because they just won't be able to use it anymore. This is how hexes work. They're high risk, high reward. A survivor cleanses it and that hex is gone. I understand it's a little less time consuming for the killer to kick the boon. It's a second, but the amount of time it takes to get to the boons and then get back to where you need to be sometimes can be ridiculous. Especially when you're playing Dead by Daylight, where for killer, time is everything. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about Circle of Healing, and my problem with it isn't really the healing speed. I'm fine with that. But I look at hexes and then I look at what this perk does, and it changed the game completely just by itself, by existing, this one perk. Even if you don't want to compare it to hexes, let's say they're supposed to be completely different things. Okay, fine. Compare Circle of Healing to the other boons in the game. I rarely, if ever, see any boon that isn't Circle of Healing. And when I do, I know what it is. I know it's there, and I can instantly play around it. There is no way of playing around Circle of Healing in a lot of the situations that I've tried to talk about here, because as a killer, you're just forced into a lose-lose. I know I am a killer main, though, so I do want to put that out there. I play both sides. When I play Survivor, I would never even think of bringing a boon because of my thoughts on it. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fun. I think it's very unbalanced, and it doesn't really bring anything to Dead by Daylight that makes me enjoy it more. I like when it's intense. I like when it's like a really fun match, a tough match, win or lose. But Circle of Healing just takes so much of the risk out of the picture completely, especially if you're in a Swift. I like the idea of boons, but I don't think they're where they should be. Anyway, I really do want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I know this video kind of went on for a little while, but this is something I've been really thinking about for a long time, and I really want to hear what you guys think too. But that's going to do it for this one, and I will catch you guys in the next one.